Attorney General Jeff Sessions.
You're fired.
FBI Director Jim Comey.
You're fired.
National Security Advisors Michael Flynn.
You're fired.
And H.R. McMaster.
You're fired.
UN Ambassador Nikki Haley. Communications Director Scaramucci and Hope Hicks.
You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired.
Add to that Steve Bannon, Reince Priebus, Sean Spicer, Tom Price, Rob Porter, Scott Pruitt, Don McGahn, Omarosa. The list goes on and on and on.
U.S. President Donald Trump has fired National Security Advisor John Bolton.
And now you can say you're fired.
Let's go.
Hello, Mr. Trump. It's an honor to meet you. I was wondering what you would say to President Obama.
You're fired.
In the 1950s, a weapon was invented that has become more powerful than America's deadliest weapons of mass destruction. It is the weapon of mass deception, and it is right in our own living rooms.
This is a result which may have confounded the pollsters and pundits and may shock the rest of the world. But the people who voted for and campaigned for Donald Trump, well, they aren't surprised he's now heading for the White House.
You know, I think years from now, we're going to look back on this period, and either President Trump will turn out to be one of the best presidents that the United States had, or perhaps these other institutions had, if he can provoke some good change there, or the worst.
The hypnotizing world of picture television brings us the news of the world through two central news agencies called Reuters and the Associated Press. The Rothschilds bought Reuters in the 1800s, which later bought the Associated Press and made the Rothschild family owners of the world's largest central news services.
The Associated Press has just reported it's official. Donald Trump is elected the President of the United States of America.
To the present day, the world depends on these Rothschild-owned central news services as their main source of news and information.
The president was treated like a rock star inside the hospital.
And I think the president's visit distracts from that healing. How hard can that be, saying that Nazis are bad?
In one voice, our nation must condemn racism, bigotry, and white supremacy.
To the present day, the world depends on these Rothschild-owned central news services as their main source of news and information. In his book called Who Owns the TV Networks, author Eustace Mullins claims that the major TV networks, radio stations, newspapers, and publishing empires are controlled by the Rothschild, Rockefeller, and J.P. Morgan money cartels through their corporate conglomerates. The bankster-owned media conglomerates include weapons manufacturers General Electric and Westinghouse, which profit from promoting wars. Control over the internet, publishing, recording, and top cable companies can be traced back to the same big five media empires: General Electric, Time Warner, Viacom, Disney, and News Corp. These media monopolies are owned directly or indirectly by the Rothschild, J.P. Morgan, Rockefeller, and Oppenheimer Brotherhood. Yes, there are now more stations and more media voices, but they're all coming from the same ventriloquist. Every TV show needs corporate sponsors, and corporate sponsors sponsor pro-business, pro-government programming, and journalists who support the agenda of the big five media owners. While two-thirds of the world goes hungry, these banksters offer gazillion-dollar sponsorships to sports athletes to play with their balls. Why? Because they keep the masses distracted from the important issues. The media and banking monopolists now have the power to make or break political leaders around the globe.
Therefore, today, I'm announcing the House of Representatives moving forward with an official impeachment inquiry.
I think it's ridiculous. It's a witch hunt. I'm leading in the polls. They have no idea how they stop me. The only way they can try is through impeachment.
His impeachment.
Why shouldn't the White House just let Congress, let the Gang of Eight, the intelligence leaders and the leaders of the House and Senate, look at this whistleblower complaint? If it's as innocent as you say, then that will clear it all up.
And when you disclose them to Congress, lots of times they leak into the press.
What he did is he said, if they don't do this or that and get rid of a certain prosecutor. Joe Biden said it. But because you're a faker, you in particular, you're a fake news group of people, you don't want to report that. I didn't do it.
Look, here's what I know. I know Trump deserves to be investigated.
Do you think it's, quote, perfectly fine to ask a foreign leader to investigate a political opponent?
I think I saw a statement from the Ukrainian foreign minister yesterday said there was no pressure applied.
This would be, I think, the most profound violation of the presidential oath of office.
Whistleblower or whoever it was, because it sounds like it's not a whistleblower.
But if it is, it needs to be exposed.
I'm hoping the Department of Justice will look at the Biden-Ukraine connection like we looked at the Trump-Russia connection.
So you're calling for an investigation
Absolutely.
by the DOJ into Ukraine and its dealings into the United States?
Can you imagine if this was the Trump family doing business like this?
This is a very dishonest thing that Joe Biden did. And then he said he never spoke to his son. Does anybody believe that one?
He'll do whatever he has to do. But this crosses the line.
He views Joe Biden as the greatest threat to his reelection. This is a House matter. I do think that they should investigate until it's clear what's their grounds for proceeding.
On the so-called whistleblower information, even though it was supposedly secondhand information, which is sort of interesting. And other things have come out about the whistleblower that are also maybe even more interesting.
The U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has been issued a subpoena concerning the Trump administration's dealings with the Ukrainian government.
The White House today released a transcript of a call between Donald Trump and the president of Ukraine. The July conversation is at the center of a major controversy. In it, Trump asks Ukraine's president to help him investigate political rival Joe Biden.
It was going to be the call from hell. It turned out to be a nothing call.
President Trump's envoy to Ukraine, Kurt Volkert, has just resigned.
The president must be held accountable. No one is above the law.
Every thought, every emotional response is a frequency. It generates a frequency, and it is of itself a frequency. Hate is a frequency, and it's different to love. You know, when you are in a room and there's lots of aggression and conflict and hatred, you feel it. What do people say? Oh God, you can cut the atmosphere with a knife in there. That is because the frequencies of hate and conflict have been so generated, they have changed the electromagnetic field of the room. Frequencies of various emotions, including rage, and basically they can play across a community these frequencies without anyone knowing, and it starts to have an effect, and it starts to build rage, it starts to build anger, and people might not realize why they're feeling it, but they start to feel it. And then what they do is they trigger that with an event. Maybe some guy is attacked by the police or something, or somebody's arrested for something they didn't commit, and now there's the trigger. The blue touch paper's been lit of this manufactured frequency-driven rage, and you have mass riots and what have you, and people do things that they wouldn't normally do, and you can make people depressed. You know, the American military, they've admitted this.
This afternoon, but it was a little after 6 o'clock when things got really heated. Take a look at this video. So what you're looking at is clashes between pro-Trump supporters and anti-Trump demonstrators. It started when the anti-Trump people started lighting the American flag. Well, keep in mind, after that, there were several small fights. Beverly Hills police officers, they got involved each time. They ultimately had to separate the two groups right next to the Beverly Hills Hotel.
We live in a world now where everything has to be black and white. You're for us or you're against us. You're good or you're bad. You're black or you're white. DNA, scientists know that DNA is a receiver transmitter of information. And we are electromagnetic, electrical organisms, transmitters and receivers of information. When our electromagnetic fields are in balance and harmony, we have health. We have psychological health and we have physical health. The reason that this technological society is causing so much psychological and quote, physical disease is because these frequencies, technologically driven, and we live in this Wi-Fi world now and all the phone masts and all the rest of it, these technologically generated frequencies are scrambling the balance of the human electromagnetic electrical communication systems. And if you scramble them, you create a state of disharmony, dis-ease, which plays through to physical and mental, emotional, psychological dis-ease. And there's another point to this. The brain processes information electrically. It communicates with the cellular structure electrically, and it operates within a certain band of frequency. If you can broadcast frequencies carrying information and perceptions within the frequency that the brain decodes information, the brain will decode those frequencies and will have those perceptions. You can externally, even without connection to AI, although that's the piece de la resistance, if you like, that's the kind of holy grail, but even before that, you can influence people's perceptions externally by broadcasting these frequencies that we interact with, because we are antenna.
Squad goals or something like goals. It was squad goals.
Why is it the president still going after the squad today?
Today, the president targeted the group known as the Squad again.